How was class today?
In Sociology 104, the professor talked about the culture and...
Who's?
Wait, who's what?
Culture.
Just like in general. I don't know, whatever.
Well, in my class, actually, very surprising thing happened. My classmate Lorena, she came to school with apple and introduced me.
Why is that surprising? Eating the apple for the lunchtime is pretty normal. You have one before.
What? No. Her friend. She has Canadian friend named Apple.
Then you should have said that.
I did. You just didn't listen. You never listened to me.
Come on, that's not fair. Okay, you met a girl named Apple.
She's from Vancouver and she is baker.
So, her name is Apple Baker? That's really the funny name.
No, her name is not Apple Baker Gee. Her name is Apple and her job is baker. Jeez.
I knew a baker in Brazil. He made excellent pão de queijo. That's the Brazilian cheese bread.
You mean there's only one?
Well, no. You know, sometimes you say I don't listen to you, but sometimes you don't listen to me either. I've been thinking, you know, your birthday is coming soon, and well, I didn't used to, but now I like cat.
Cat? You like cat?
Yeah, I mean, wouldn't it be nice if we share an apartment with cat?
What? Are you crazy?
Wait, what?
You have a crush on my best friend Cat? I knew it!
Of course not.
Now you deny it.
Waiter, please bring bill.
Right away.
You've totally got the wrong idea. I didn't mean your friend cat. I mean, she's the animal.
You really are crazy.
Hi, I'm the manager, Bill. How may I help you?
Making friends with someone from another culture can be wonderful and amazing. However, when both persons are learners of a shared second language, communicating and expressing clearly to each other can be a real challenge, especially when that second language is English. English is full of irregularity, inconsistent rules, exceptions to rules, and weirdness. I'm Teacher Paul, and in this series we're exploring these strange features of English grammar and the problems they can cause, even relationship problems. And in this episode, we'll look at a group of very small, yet very powerful words. I'm speaking, of course, about articles. And though they're indeed tiny words, they're essential for communicating accurately and clearly in English. In fact, they're so essential, using them incorrectly can mean the difference between an apple, a bill, and a cat.
Teacher Paul, I really need your help. My friend Aya is super angry at me. She thinks I'm in love with her friend named Cat.
That's a serious problem indeed, Guy. But first, before we go any further, please tell me you're not really in love with her friend, are you?
Of course not, teacher. I've never even met her. Besides, I would never do something like that.
Okay, that's good to hear.
I was gonna buy Cat, but now Aya is super angry at me, and I think I might never see her again.
I don't think it was a girl named Cat who came between you and Aya, nor do I think it was a pet cat.
What do you think it was, teacher? Please help me.
What I think ruined your date was English weirdness.
Really? Oh my God.
Don't worry, Guy, don't worry. Tell me what happened and we'll break it down. Let's see if I understand this. You told your friend Aya that in class that day you had talked about the culture?
And Aya didn't seem to understand me, teacher. It was weird.
Well, did Aya know which culture you were referring to?
Maybe. Come to think of it, maybe not. But I was referring to the culture we talk about in my sociology class.
Was Aya in that class?
No.
Then it seems to me that she would have no way of knowing which culture you were talking about. The information in word, culture, was new information. In that moment, you were introducing it to your discourse or conversation.
But teacher, how can I make it clear which culture I'm talking about?
That's the million-dollar question, Guy. We need a tiny little word with a lot of communicative power. It's called an article.
You mean like newspaper article, teacher?
Not quite, but you just showed us how in English, words can have different meanings, and that's part of this problem. The word article can indeed refer to a newspaper or magazine or website article. Or it can refer to a group of tiny but very powerful words. And it's these articles we need to look at here.
Articles, teacher?
They're tiny but powerful and essential in English. Unfortunately, the usage of them is fairly complex and involves several important irregularities and exceptions. But I'll show you a system to simplify their usage.
Are there a lot of words to memorize, teacher? I'm not good at this.
Fortunately, there are only 3 articles to know. Here they are: a, an, and the.
It's funny, they are such small words, but they cause so much trouble.
One confusing thing about articles that make them hard to learn, I think, are their grammar names. English students are often taught that the is called a definite article, while a and an are called indefinite articles. And I think this confuses learners. These 2 names suggest that the indefinite articles don't refer to anything in particular. Now, they might do so occasionally, but much of the time they do refer to something specific, or at least distinct from the other nouns. Consider these examples. Now you tell me, are these indefinite articles referring to something that is not particular or distinct?
Definitely not, teacher.
So I think, even though you find these terms in grammar books, they are misleading and confusing for learners. I think it's more useful to think of the purpose of all 3 articles as functioning to introduce nouns into your discourse. That's their purpose. Furthermore, as you just pointed out, these so-called indefinite articles do indeed refer to information that is particular and somewhat distinct, but new to your discourse. For example, culture was new to your discourse.
But culture wasn't new information, teacher. I studied all day in class.
But remember, you weren't alone in your discourse, and Aya didn't study it all day in class, did she? So for her, in your shared discourse, it was a new and unfamiliar topic.
So the question isn't how specific or definite the noun is, but how new they are in our discourse, right?
You've got it.
So what about the so-called definite article, the, teacher? What does it signal?
That's interesting. You just said, what about the so-called definite article? You used the correctly there.
Correctly?
Tell me this, the so-called definite article, is it specific or distinct?
Sure, it's distinct from the other nouns.
And is it new and unfamiliar?
No, you and I have been discussing it for several minutes.
Exactly. Within our shared context, our discourse, it is not new. Importantly, it is familiar to both of us. That's why you needed to use it correctly, and you did.
So teacher, when I was with Aya, which one of us used articles wrong? Me or her?
I'd say you both made some article errors. But this is fairly normal for 2 English learners with different first languages, trying to communicate to each other.
Why, teacher?
Your English discourse is like a bridge. Each of you begin on a separate side. That's your first language. But when you communicate with each other using English, you move across the bridge, trying to meet in the middle. The problem is, Neither you nor Aya is perfectly proficient in English. Not yet. You're still learning, so you don't quite make it to the middle to perfect understanding. But that, Guy, is your goal.
Okay, teacher. So now we know what articles do. How do we choose which one to use?
Good question, Guy. As we've just seen, articles are deeply related to the characteristics of the noun they attach to. The second thing is that every time you use a noun, you must decide whether or not to use an article. And if so, which one?
Teacher, that sounds like the decision making is a lot.
Maybe at first, but I'm going to show you a system that can help you make this decision, and it works. Most of the time. Now, this system will feel a little slow at first, but it's slow for native speakers too in the beginning. You'll get faster and faster, and eventually the decision making will occur quickly and unconsciously.
What kind of system?
I call it Teacher Paul's Amazing Article Accelerator.
Cool! Does it make articles go faster, like the particle accelerator atomic science use?
Not really. I just thought it was a cool name.
Teacher, you are the man.
Actually, Guy, I'm just a man. But thank you for the compliment. Well, this system doesn't actually accelerate anything, but it will help us decide if we need an article, and if so, which one.
It looks difficult, teacher.
I didn't promise you it would be easy, but it is effective, and that's more important.
I'm good to go, teacher.
With this system, we insert a noun, any noun, and the accelerator will process it. Let's try it with a noun. Say, culture. By the way, do you remember what a proper noun is?
Sure, teacher. Those are names of people, places, cities, countries, companies, school subjects, things like that. And they get a capital letter.
Exactly right, Guy.
Culture can be a school subject, but in class, we are referring to it as a concept, not an academic discipline.
Good. So, culture is not a proper noun.
But teacher, how do we know if it is a specific noun or not?
We need to judge that by context. Ask yourself this. Do you and the person you are communicating with mutually know which noun you are referring to? In other words, is it already familiar to both of you? Have you previously made it known? Do you guys share the noun and the context? For example, you and your friend Aya shared the restaurant context, but Aya wasn't in the same university class as you were, so she did not know about which culture you were talking.
So the answer must be no. It is not a specific noun. It is new to our discourse, but not familiar and distinct.
Okay, let's move it through the accelerator. Next stop, is it uncountable?
There are many cultures, so it's countable.
Right, but this word can have both countable and uncountable meanings. In your case though, your professor was speaking about culture as a concept, so it is uncountable.
Teacher, how can I know if a word is uncountable or countable?
It helps to think of countable objects as having boundaries. Skin, walls, borders, edges. And uncountable nouns as being substances or materials without boundaries or borders. Or you can always check a dictionary. Now, let's try it with another noun. How about baker?
Okay, I thought baker was a name, but Aya made it clear that it's not. It's her friend's job.
Right. Baker can be a person's name, but not in this discourse context. Was it specific?
Well, in our context, the context Aya was talking about, it was unfamiliar, new to our conversation, and not really specific. So, no.
Next step. Was it uncountable?
Well, a restaurant or cafe could have 1 or 2 bakers on their staff. No, it was countable.
Next step. Plural?
Aya mentioned only 1, So, no.
And does it begin with a vowel?
It begins with B. No. So we must get A. That means Aya should have said her friend named Apple is a baker. She also made a mistake.
That's the nice thing about relationships, Guy. Everyone in them makes mistakes equally. Well, we're men, so we probably make more.
Yeah, I know what you mean, teacher.
Okay, let's test another word. Let's try it with apple.
Okay, step 1. Apple is not a proper noun. Wait, Aya told me that she met a Canadian girl named Apple, which means it's a proper noun and gets no article. But I thought she meant the fruit apple.
Here's where English gets really weird, Guy. Some English words can be both a proper noun and a regular noun. And I think you know another example.
Oh my god, teacher. Cat!
That's right. You thought you were suggesting a pet cat to Aya, but she thought you were telling her you like Cat, her friend. Cat is a common short form of the name Catherine or Katerina.
There's a big difference between giving Aya a pet cat and being in love with her friend, teacher.
A huge difference. Guy, remember when you asked the waiter for Bill and the manager came? Let's test that noun.
You mean?
Yep. The word bill can be both a regular noun and a proper noun. The problem is, we identify proper nouns by the capital letter. But when you hear a word in a conversation, you don't hear the capital letter. So simply by listening, you cannot determine if the word is bill, the paper upon which is written your cost, or some guy named Bill.
So, we need the article to signal whether the noun is the object noun meaning or the proper noun meaning.
That's right. Now, in the mutually shared and familiar context of your dinner, which do you think it was?
Well, we're finished our dinner, and after dinner, it is pretty normal to ask the waiter to bring the piece of paper that tells you how much money you owe. That bill is not a proper noun, it's an object noun.
Good. Go ahead and put it through the accelerator. Next step. Was it specific and familiar?
Based on the context, we both knew it was time to pay and leave. So yes. So we should have asked for the bill, not Bill the manager. But with no article, Bill sounds exactly like a man's name. Because in speech, you can't hear a capital letter. Now I get it.
Exactly. And I have to say, the fact that the restaurant happened to have a manager named Bill was a pretty amazing coincidence.
Whoa, teacher. The article accelerator really is amazing.
It's pretty cool, but it isn't perfect.
Oh yeah, you said earlier that there were some exceptions that didn't work in the accelerator.
That's right, Guy. This is where things get a little weirder. Remember I said proper nouns don't get articles? Well, that's not always the case. Here is a list of proper nouns that actually do get a definite article, the, before them. Let's think of these as being members of topic groups. These are fixed and unchanging. So you just have to get used to them and remember they're exceptions, and these nouns will not work in the accelerator.
Man, Teacher Paul, for such tiny words, articles sure can cause a lot of trouble for learners like Aya and me.
I'm afraid you're right, Guy, but don't worry. Keep practicing with the amazing article accelerator and you'll improve.
But teacher, why do learners like us make so many article errors?
Many learners' first language, such as Arabic, Russian, and Aya's Japanese, use no system of articles. And other learners' first language, such as Spanish, Norwegian, and your Portuguese, use articles, but in very different ways. To make things even trickier, in some languages like Spanish or Portuguese, nouns are either masculine or feminine, right?
Yeah, and depending on that, each need a different type of article.
Exactly.
But teacher, how can a language like Aya's Japanese have no articles? How can they know which cat is cat, which bill is bill?
That's a great question, Guy. Researchers debate this, but many agree that the Japanese language originated at least in part from ancient Chinese. And the Chinese language doesn't even use words in the same sense that English does. It uses ideograms, distinct characters that convey a complete idea. To make a sentence in Chinese, the characters are positioned in a sequence, juxtaposing one meaning with another one. They don't need as many connector words to connect them as English does. Their relationship implies a meaning, much of which also relies on the context. So, as the Japanese language evolved, it may have preserved some of these characteristics. As a result, speakers in a Japanese discourse are thus expected to be very sensitive to context. Your friend Aya is probably like this, sensitive to context.
And compared to her, I'm like totally insensitive to it. She must think I'm an idiot.
I doubt that, Guy. And in fairness, she might not be so sensitive to the Portuguese need for connector words and articles. But regardless of the characteristics of your first languages, to develop accuracy in English, you need to keep working on your article usage. Remember, for you and Aya, English is the communication bridge that links you. If you want to join each other in the middle, you both need to be sensitive to the discourse context and to each other. Be patient and enjoy the amazing experience of being able to get to know each other in a mutually shared language. And I think I know how you can smooth things over with Aya.
I'm ready, teacher.
Get her the cat.
Cool. Teacher Paul, I knew you could help me. You really are the man.
Well, that's nice of you to say, Guy. Okay, let's summarize.
But if you don't use any articles, you make every noun sound like a proper noun. And this can be very confusing.
Aya, wait, please. I'm sorry. I used English weirdness. What I meant was, I want to get you a cat, a present for an apartment.
A cat? You mean not my friend Cat?
Totally not. I don't even know her. To me, she's completely indefinite, indistinct, and unfamiliar.
What?
Never mind.
Well, I guess a cat, huh? That's kind of sweet, Guy. Thank you. A cat? Really?
Really.
Was it really just English weirdness?
What was it you folks wanted to ask me?